Alrighty, let's get right into this. The first pull is a pack of 4. Just stay mounted until you get to the end. I typically use shield throw to grab the pat walking up, and then follow it up with a shout to have everything walk into melee. And it gets this on cooldown as soon as possible so they can have it back up for another pull. There's only one mob in this pull that needs to be kicked, that is the Sentinel, and it will cast a barrier. Make sure that gets done. The rest of them are unkickable. They channel rapid fire in a location. Just make sure you're not standing in it. Now for the second pull I'm going to do, you can break it up into 2 pulls if you like. I typically like to chain pull it once the archer is dead or almost dead, and I'm also waiting for my shout. Do not double pull it without shout. Now that my shout is off cooldown, I feel safe to go and chain pull. I do kick this mob so I can drag him away from the bridge, as it is worth noting there is a pat and that will get pulled. I typically hold my shout for one of the casts to go off that's important to be kicked, to use it to interrupt that. In my opinion, I think the Scholar is the primary target in any of the pulls that have it, as it spawns an orb, as you can see here, that chases a player. If they are slacking and get hit by it, it does AoE damage that is very deadly. Now for this next pull here, if you didn't chain pull the one prior, you'll have shout up, and you can use shout to group everything up easily. However, it isn't needed, as you can use this pillar here to LOS them and they'll come walking in. Didn't do the greatest job, but it was good enough. Saying AoE damage, I saw that, popped the damage reduction trinket to help the healer out, and we were able to recover. Once the mobs are done casting rapid fire, I'm going to adjust slightly to bring that mob in to make it better for AoE damage. This is another pull that you can break up into 2 if you need. I'm going to give it a little bit of time to get closer to the pack so I can chain pull it since I have shout up. I highly recommend not chain pulling this if you don't have shout off cooldown. This pull definitely can be a little rough, as there's 3 mobs that need to be kicked. Could be a good idea to use a DPS ult for this. Our fire mage did it and it helped a lot. First boss here is probably the easiest out of the 3. There's about 5 mechanics throughout the fight and none of them are too hard. First mechanic you will see on this fight is a whirlwind-like ability that splits the room up into pizza slices. Find the safe spot and rotate around with it. The next mechanic you will see is a debuff targeted on a random player. Just puts a massive circle around them and it pops for damage. Don't be in that circle. As you can see, there's a trap that just got thrown out. That's another mechanic. It's thrown at random players. People don't want to get hit by it. It does a lot of damage. However, it's not a very tank damage fight, so I've kind of been running over them to clear the space up. Volley is the healer mechanic. It's a big AoE damage with the debuff. Mass Dispel is huge here. Personal Defensives is huge here. And then the last thing are these ads. They're basically irrelevant. There's just one that needs to be kicked. The last thing worth noting is the twist mechanic. It tends to get harder the longer you're in the fight, as it lasts longer and can have some bad overlaps. So just take your time, breathe, and get out of that safely. Nowhere to hide. Enough! Traps were starting to get a little overwhelmed here, so I wanted to clean up melee for this rogue, so I went over and intentionally stepped on some. They don't really hurt that much on the tank, at least not in E1. Not sure if that's going to change in higher tiers, but if you feel tanky, feel free to clean the room up for people. Now that the first boss is down, we're back to trash. This pull isn't too bad, it's just 5 mobs, one of them being a scholar. I personally think they're the priority target, so make sure y'all are focusing and cleaving off of it. It has an important kick. The other mobs just do the barrage and the whirlwind, so it's a little hectic for melee. Be careful, watch your feet. Now for the next 2 pulls here, they can be a little rough, so if you have DPS ultimates and you want to split it up, you definitely can. I would definitely save 1 for the next pull at least. I do use my AoE shout here to interrupt the whirlwind ability the one mob started doing, so that my rogue can stay in melee and keep pumping out as much damage as he can. Right there is a perfect example as to why the Scholar is the priority target, has this important kick, and spawns orbs into random players. If they're caught slacking, does massive damage to the whole group. I lost 3 here. I have to kite a little bit, we do manage to recover. This pull here can for sure be rough, so make sure you focus up. A DPS ultimate can definitely help to make it feel better. Keep in mind the Scholar is the priority target, followed by the Corrupted. They both have important kicks that need to be focused, so make sure you mark your kick target. Any large pull like this, I typically like to delay my shout a little bit to try and interrupt an unkickable cast. Now that the Scholar is down, I'm going to swap over to the Corruptor as my primary target and cleave off of that. Keep in mind the golems in this pull do spawn 3 additional mini adds each, so be careful when AoEing them down not to kill them all at once, unless you have a Mass Dispel, which we did. You'll see it used here shortly. This next pull here is very simple. You just want to grab that one at the bottom of the hill and then jump down and grab the elemental and the pat. As you can see, I'm in pure panic mode right here as I got stuck. Now that I'm at free, I can finally reach over and grab the pat, kick it to get it away from the stuff in the corner so nothing gets pulled that we don't want. This is another simple pull. It's just 2 golems and 2 archers. I like to pull it back a little bit because there's still 1 golem padding around that you don't want pulled. The things to keep in mind for this is the 2 golems will spawn those adds again, those shards, and you just don't want to break all 6 shards at once. So either slow them down or have a Mass Dispel ready. This is indeed another pull that you can break up into 2 if needed. I like to chain pull as long as my shout is off cooldown. The 2 targets is just the corruptors that need to be kicked. They do the drain life. Just keep an eye out for that and don't miss it. Now it's boss time. This boss on paper is very simple, however it does seem to be the pug destroyer, at least for me. There's a couple simple mechanics. It's just the soak that you have to rotate at least 2 players to do. There's a ball that chases a random person, and a frontal that needs to be aimed at that ball. As you can see here, this is the first one. It's the soak. I'm going to take first. You do leave a debuff shortly after, so just don't put it in an annoying spot. I like to tuck it out in the corner. Here's the cone that targets a random player. They're aiming it at those balls to break it, and they go away. From here on out, it is simply just rinse and repeat. Our fire mage just grabbed the second soak that needed to happen, as my debuff just fell off now, so I'll be able to do the next. This was extremely unlucky here. The fire mage took his soak and then got the frontal right after, and he just didn't have the health to survive it. Not entirely sure what happened to the rogue. I think it just bled out due to our healer being out of mana and losing a DPS. But we managed to get it done. Not the cleanest, but that's okay. This next pull here isn't too bad. I mean, it's the mobs we've been clearing all dungeon. Just make sure you get the priority kick on the corruptor and you'll be okay. There's also no reason to really be saving DPS cooldowns even though there's a boss coming up, because you want to have your DPS cooldowns for 50% of that boss. This boss is a little bit of a DPS race as the room gets smaller, making it harder to deal with mechanics, but we'll get into the mechanics here. The first one you'll see is the tank frontal. You just want to make sure your tank is positioned on the edge of the room, facing the frontal away. The next mechanic you should see is the group soak. Just get in this and then get out of the purple circle afterwards, because that will pop for additional damage. And as you saw, the room got smaller on that soak. Every time that happens, the room will get slightly smaller. The last mechanic is just the pulling in the bleed circles. He pulls everybody in and then dashes to the 2 targets. Anybody in the circle or in between the circles will get the bleed debuff. Just watch your positioning there. Now that he's below 50%, he's going to pop Demonic Frenzy, going into Demon form. This is for sure the burn window. Everything hurts a lot more, so you want to pop all your DPS, ultimates, and cooldowns to get them down as quick as possible. Cithrel falls done, Heart of Tazari next, so if you enjoyed this video, like and follow so you don't miss the next one, and here's a picture of the route so you guys can follow it.